In a world searching for a light in the dark, there is only one two-man team with the balls to take you by the hand and lead you towards the light. That one team is RantWorthy Podcast. Welcome back, everybody. It's another Sunday, June 4th. Finally not a holiday for once. I feel like we did 15 holiday shows in a row.
It's fucking ridiculous.
It's June 4th, 2017. I am Lee Powell with my co-host, Ryan. Might as well be a flat earther, Shamrock. We're casting the pods from a secret bunker in the heartland of America, Cincinnati, Ohio. Off the tail end of UFC 212, which was awesome. But
it was amazing. Also
on the tail end of one of the coolest weeks for us ever, which we for sure cannot skip over whatsoever. So this week, we had two people. I mean, multiple people may start following us, and it's a lot of fun to see new people. But we got two huge ones that I thought was so freaking cool this week.
Yes.
This is in no specific order because I think they're both equally cool for different reasons. The one, we started getting followed by Ken Shamrock. I about shit my pants.
So on one day this week, I want to say it was Tuesday or Wednesday. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm rolling through our social media in the morning, and I had to do a fucking double take because I see Ken Shamrock on there, and I was like, there's no fucking way this is real. Click on it, verified account. I was like, holy fuck. Screenshot it and then send it to Lee. And he was like, had the exact same reaction I did. There's no way that's real. There's no way that's real.
Like, he's searching for followers. There's no way.
So then I'm having to go through his Twitter and screenshot pictures of like, no, this is actually him, and send it over to him. It was super funny.
I couldn't believe that one because Ken Shamrock, little does he know, I have a move in jiu-jitsu that I made up a while ago that only my teammates know about, a secret leg lock, and I call it the Ken Shamrock. I have an entry, things that I have not released to anybody out there that I'm slowly working in the background to iron out all the kinks, and there's a section in there called the Ken Shamrock, so it was only fitting that he wrote me, but started following us. Little does he know, he's more of an influence than he thinks.
And as a huge wrestling fan, I was like,
oh my God, yeah,
double geeking out over the week. So it was super awesome.
I think that's another huge reason why I got into MMA young, was because he was like the MMA guy. So we kept, like, as a wrestling fan in the 90s, we kept hearing that all the time.
Yeah, they would play that up on there all the time.
Yeah, like he was a real fighter, the most dangerous man in the world. And I was like, why do they keep saying this? So
yeah.
The other one, Daniel Straus, started following us, which is so crazy to me because when you're talking about like MMA fighters in Ohio, you may talk about Rich Franklin, maybe George Dragel. I mean, not that you wouldn't talk about him, but I mean, if you're talking like in an order, to me, Daniel Straus, on an overall accomplishment basis, he's got to be number 2 of the best fighters from this area ever. Yeah, and I thought that was super cool because his story is pretty cool. It's wild as hell. He had like kind of a troubled past. Went to prison, got out of prison, got into MMA fighting, and then went to the top of the ranks in Bellator. You know, fighting some of the best guys in the world. I thought that was really awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was a really good wrestler around here. I think he went to Sycamore of all places, not very far away from us. I think he has still one of the best records ever.
That's awesome.
42-1, which is ridiculous. So, shout out to Ken Shamrock and Daniel Straus. Couldn't believe they were following. I don't know if you guys are just searching for followers off our back, but in the meantime,
we'll take it.
I will take thinking that you guys actually give a shit, and I love you guys.
That's amazing.
Last night we did a live chat for the UFC 212 card, and I couldn't believe the reaction that everybody gave. We ended up, so while you're doing these periscopes and live chats and stuff like that, when you're talking, people throw you hearts and likes and things like that. And when the stream is over and we kind of look at all the hearts and see how many times people liked us, Ryan had to give me the tally, which finally was
57,000.
57,000 people put the hearts on there. That helps us out. You know what I mean? It helps out our page. That was the first stream we had done from Periscope, which we're going to utilize it way more often. Yeah. And we've been wanting to get into those kind of things. But it was like, dang, I couldn't believe so many people were into it. And it was surprising how many, out of that many people watching, how many trolls weren't there.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised.
Yeah.
Like, you get 5 people out of 1,000 people watching it. I mean, out of all the people that were coming in, coming out, we had multiple thousands of viewers, like 5,000-6,000 people watching in and out. But we sustained for a really long time over 1,000 people watching, and we're giving comments throughout the entire thing. I'm almost doing like a live Q&A during the entire thing too, and it was really positive, really fun. I mean, it was a great time.
Yeah, I had a really good time watching that. It was super cool. People were really engaged, and it was a lot of fun just to go back and forth. And I mean, as somebody who is big, and I've talked about this before, I love Reddit. And whenever you're on Reddit, in MMA or baseball, or really whatever sport, there's always like a live commentary like thread that goes up, and some of the fucking funniest shit in the world and the best discussion will be listed in those. And I love to like sit in there. It's like the NBA finals. I love to, on a night when I don't have to work, I'll sit there on Reddit and just, I may not watch basketball all year, but I'll sit on Reddit and watch people's commentary as shit is going on. And it goes from super informative to people being fucking pissed as fuck to people just saying the most hilarious stuff. It is so good, man. I love it.
Yeah, I used to get on the UG during fight cards, and you will hear some of the funniest stuff in the world. Because there are no filter on the internet.
Yeah.
Nothing, it won't be talked about. It might be Mario Yamasaki in the middle of 2 people, and you'll have people talking about Mario Yamasaki's junk. They'll be like, does Mario's dick look bigger than usual this week? I'm like, gee, you guys look at everything. I mean, my God. And then there'll be people talking about the fight, some people cracking jokes. The UG's hilarious.
Well, and even like when a commercial comes on, nothing is safe. Like you can't leave because somebody is talking trash on something 100% of the time. It's
and
so
if you
good.
say something dumb in the comment section, you're about to get roasted by 300 people.
I love
and it's
it.
going to last forever.
It's so great.
It is really cool. The online community has been very kind to us. So we appreciate you guys. Also this week on Tuesday, which brought up a lot of funny stuff, I think, for us, was F is for Family came back on Netflix. And if you're not hip to F is for Family, it's a cartoon from Bill Burr. We were big fans of the first season. Carly and I loved it because we watched it, I think, during Christmas break of like a year and some change ago. So we like binge watched it the entire time that I was home. So it was kind of a fun time. And then the new season came out, and me and Ryan couldn't help but wonder why people love the show, and then how many similarities there are to our lives. Because you can't help but look like, why is the show so cool? Because they're living in a cul-de-sac, and you have like the most outrageous characters in this cul-de-sac. You have Vic, who's like this guy that has this huge bulge in his pants. He has like the hot car. He's got money. He's always got different girls at his house. Then you got their main family. That's the family going through turmoil, the whole nine. You got the little fat kid.
Frank saying all the time, "I'll put you through the wall."
Yeah.
Oh my God, I've heard friends' parents say that to them before, like that exact phrase every time. It kills me.
I think like they also kind of show like the everyday American family. Yeah, it's like where the dad comes home from work and he's pissed off. The mom's trying to keep it together, but she cracks every once in a while. When the mom cracks, it's always hilarious.
Oh my God, so good.
Because she's super calm, finally loses it, and when she loses it, she's like hitting kids with big spoons, telling them to shut the fuck up, even though she's the consummate like loving mother. And then I love when he says he was gonna put him through a wall, and he's like, the son goes, "We're outside, genius." He's like, "Then I will build one, and I will put you fucking through it."
It's so good.
I love that damn show. But the whole block is full of all these characters that are so it's normal people turned up to 10, Yeah. And you have like the little 2 dirty kids. You have like the bully on the street. I mean, everything is covered.
The guy who's always peeking in the windows and knows what's going on with your house and stuff all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got the older Jewish guy that I'm pretty sure he was in the Holocaust. Right? Yeah. So you have that. You have everything covered in the show. And Ryan, when he lived with me, we lived in that area.
I think that's one of the reasons it's so funny is because when I was here, the neighborhood was so ridiculous that you can identify with almost every character on that little cul-de-sac in the show.
And they're all completely different from each other.
Yeah.
The people that live on the left of me is like an older Jewish woman, very quiet, very sweet, but an older Jewish woman nonetheless. And she's never been mean, nothing bad about her whatsoever. You get the person that lives in front of me, and it's like an older lesbian woman who like is in her 50s, but she never really comes outside. She doesn't hang out. She's always at like a vacation home and doing all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You got the person on the other side of me who's like the perfect yard people. Those are like the ones that we never got along with.
And we actually talked about this a little bit before, but at one point in time when I lived here, Lee went on vacation, and so I don't know if they're afraid of you or how it works or if you've had incidents in the past.
So many.
But like while he was gone, he was out for a week. And
I was in Hawaii.
I would be taking the trash out, and every time I'd be outside, they would come out the front door and start harassing me about the yard. And they would be like, "When's Lee going to take care of the yard?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's not my house. I don't know. What? Talk to him." Yeah. Like, and so like the entire time they're harassing me, and I was texting him. I was like, "Dude, the neighbors are going crazy about the yard." And when you came back, you like went over there, or you caught them outside one day,
like staring down the front yard.
Oh yeah, and then you were like, "Hey, I really don't appreciate you harassing my roommate the entire time I was on vacation. If you got a problem, you can talk to me about it." And it was just so strange.
Well, you know, the issue with them as the neighbor is they play the whole keeping up with the Joneses, you know?
Yeah, they're the corner house.
They have the perfect yard. They live in this yard, though. And you got to realize that at the time, like when I'm 22, 23 years old, and you're in your 60s, your priorities compared to mine on working on your yard are completely different. I'm 22 years old. If you think I'm going to live outside, cutting my grass every day, doing the mulch, doing the watering, edging, like literally they sit out there. I saw the neighbor one day out there with scissors going around his flower beds to make them look all cut out and nice. I get it. That's cool for you. That's not my thing. And you can't push those expectations on me. And when I don't hit that, you're mad. They've called the city on me. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've gotten super ridiculous with trying to fuck with us.
What's crazy is, I mean, as somebody who works in the home improvement area and, you know, deals with fertilizer and all this all the time, let me tell you right now, and this is not an exaggeration, they have the most perfectly edged yard I've ever seen in my life. It is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to the end of the sidewalk, the grass literally cuts at an exact 90-degree angle, stands straight up and down. It's cut at the perfect length. When you walk through it, you're just like, I cannot believe this looks like fake. It doesn't. I can't believe somebody spends so much time doing that.
You know, another thing that they don't mess up, and this is like some yard nerd stuff. You know what they don't mess up is on the edging. What is worse than the edging when it comes in like 8 inches, where it looks like you just killed a bunch of grass and all you see is dirt underneath?
Yeah.
Theirs isn't like that. It's like a perfect inch offset. It's so finely edged, and I can't care, dude. They're putting it for real. Out of 7 days a week, he will be out there 7 days a week.
You know what's funny is I just thought about this. Are you a King of the Hill fan?
I've never seen the show in my life.
Your neighbor, you need to watch it because your neighbor is Hank Hill in real life.
Really?
I swear to you. I just thought about that, like obsessed with the lawn. I see him as being like this conservative, just all American. Like, think about like what's the most American male thing I can do? That's what I'm into. Like, your neighbor is real life Hank Hill. That's absolutely hilarious to me.
It's crazy how detailed they are. So you have the perfect lawn people. You have there's another lady that lives very, very close that sits in the front of her house all day, every day and monitors the entire street.
Do you still have the guys that live on the street? I haven't seen them for a little while that have the gas-powered remote control cars.
Yeah.
Dude, I've almost blasted those things driving down the street many times.
They rip and roar like little gas-powered cars up and down the street, little RC cars. But then the best neighbor that we have, though, is, we'll call him Rick. So Rick is, to say he's strung out, well, he's not here anymore, so luckily I can talk all about him all I want. But to say he's strung out on drugs is an understatement. Mm-hmm. So he lived with his aunt, And Rick we would watch all the time where he would be selling drugs. Not only is he on drugs, but he's selling drugs every day, all day. People would be pulling up to the front. We would watch him at night. We'd turn off all the lights.
Yep.
We'd be looking out the window. We're not calling anybody or telling anyone anything. We're not some narcs now.
No.
But we are some nosy people. So we're watching out the window, and you'll see a van pull up, and he'd get in that van. They drive away. Then all of a sudden, about 3 minutes later, they pull up, they drop him off, and boom, he'd walk out, and then he'd sit back on the porch. He'd be smoking some cigarettes. Another car pulls up, and it was like a drive-through of just people come. There were times where we sat out there watching him for hours.
Yep.
Hours selling drugs. It was so funny to me.
Why did he like us so much? Because he loved us.
Oh my God,
he hated everyone else. Like every time he would come over when we were sitting on the porch, he would talk shit about everyone else in the neighborhood.
I know.
But for some reason, he made it seem like he had our back. Like he would like
100%.
be like nudging us like, "Yeah, I got you guys."
Well, you know what it was? I think he saw in us that we had a mild sketchy streak.
Yeah.
And he knew that none of these other older people have that.
Yeah.
Because granted, he was not young by any means, but he knew these people were probably onto him and probably gonna bust him at some point. I think he was doing little heat checks. He'd come over and wonder, like, do we have a problem with him? Well, I remember one time I was sitting on the front stoop of my house, and I'm just hanging out. I was going through something at the time. I don't know what it was, but he comes up to me, and he's smoking, and I'm like, oh, Rick's one talks about something. I don't know what's going on. And I noticed he's got a joint. So he's just smoking weed walking across the street, and he comes up to the front, and he goes like, you feeling down? And I'm like, going through some stuff. He goes, well, want to smoke a little weed? I go, no, I'm good, man. And we just go to talk, and it's a normal conversation, but he would just walk around smoking weed. And then one time he comes up, and he has a pipe in his hand. This time you were on the porch with me.
He had an aluminum foil crack pipe in his hand, and just came over casually, and he's just walking over there with it in his hand. And wasn't he like telling us he was going to jail?
Yeah. So here it is. So he came over with his. I'm not sure what you smoke in these things. So it's either crack, heroin. He's doing something.
Yeah, I made the assumption of crack. I don't know shit.
I don't know if it's a crack pipe because he might be smoking heroin. I have no idea. But he's smoking some old wild-looking shit because I don't know how many things use aluminum foil.
I don't know either.
Things. So anybody in the drug culture, maybe get a hold of us. What was he smoking? Because I don't know. So he comes over and he always has the best way of opening conversations. I feel like he's smart under it all.
Yeah.
But he comes up to me and goes, hey, Lee. I'm like, what's up, man?
The impression is so good.
It's dead on. I swear on my life, it's dead on. This is his voice. And he goes, hey, you got a gun? Yeah, I do. And he's like, I need you to watch my house. Going to prison for a little while. I was like, oh, okay. So he was living with his aunt that is much older than him. She had to be 80, honestly.
Yeah.
And he tells me he's going to prison for a while. His head is freshly shaved. He always had like this kind of peacocky haircut, and it was shaved. He's doing some drugs last minute, saying, hey, do you have a gun? Because I'm going to prison. I need you to watch my place. And I'm wondering to myself, like, your aunt is in her 80s. What in the world do I need to be protecting her from? But then I got to think, with all the drug sales and things that he's into, shit, he must have people probably coming after him and the whole nine. What's funny is there was one time I was at work. I just remembered this, but I was at work and a guy comes up to me who owned a restaurant up the street from us. And he goes, oh, I know what it was. My car was down at one point and he gave me a ride home. He looks over there and goes, oh my God, Rick lives over there? And I'm like, yeah, he's a wild dude. He's like, yeah, tell me about it. My in-laws own a restaurant up the street. They kick him out of the bathroom all the time because he's always smoking crack in the bathroom.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
I was like, damn, Rick, you savage. He's just run until the thing breaks down, run until the wheels fall off. He just doesn't give a shit. It's funny because at one point, it's not funny, actually. Now that I think about it, it's not funny at all. So eventually, the aunt dies, and he thinks he's going to take over the house, but she has a son that was in like a gang of some sort. I'm not going to elaborate on this because I don't want to, put anyone out there.
Yeah.
But pretty much they told him, like, you get out of this house or we're going to pretty much come fuck you up. So,
Wow.
So, he was gone. And then, no more Rick. He happened to go down the street at some point when I was out in the yard. I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to do some things to the yard. I was out there putting some mulch down or something like that. I finally gave in. And he's driving by on his bike. He goes, "Hey, Lee, looks like they finally domesticated you, huh?" You finally gave in.
That's amazing.
Damn it, Rick. You're so right. It was funny as hell. I love watching F is for Family for that reason, because it reminds me of all the characters. I had the same thing when I was a kid, though. When I was a kid, because I know you didn't really have this, right?
No.
It's not like this in your town whatsoever.
Not at all.
Is it because the houses are so far apart?
Yeah, so you have like your town characters, like the one in particular. Like there are a couple. There was this guy who used to ride a scooter around, who was like, I don't know if he was not all there or just kind of crazy or what, but he I think he got hit on his moped 4 or 5 times in my childhood. And then there was another guy who would drive around the street with a little like rascal scooter and would strap like a 24 pack of beer on the back of it as he was driving to and from his house. And you just had like these people who hung out downtown in this small town, and like you knew who they were. You used to call them like townies and stuff like that, but there was nothing like the neighborhood cul-de-sac, because this is more like a, hey, this is my neighborhood, so we're trying to like be interested in everything going on. But in my life, we didn't have that. So
when I was a kid, it wasn't much different. It actually covered some other things, because when I was a kid, you have like the 2 sketchy kids down the street. We had I had a neighbor that was like gigantic, like my 600-pound life type neighbor, and then their neighbor was essentially Gumby. It was like this basketball player kid who was like 6'8", 6'9" when we were kids, and he was gigantic. We had like the older people that were that lived in front of us that were, not so nice to their kid. And then you had the older man that had a young person taking care of him. And then you had the Brady Bunch family. We had a Brady Bunch family.
The all-American family.
No. You know what it was? Dead serious. It was for real the Brady Bunch. Like one family had like 3 or 4 kids.
Oh.
And the other one had 5 kids. And then they got married and all moved into the same house.
Interesting.
Dude,
Interesting.
It was insane. Because all of a sudden that was like it was a party every day. Because you're going over there, and when you go over their house, I mean, when there's 9 people, and then on top of that, like 2 more parents, and then they have cousins and friends, there was always 20 people at this house. And I hung out with them before they were.
Most of them were kids too, so
exactly.
Just like party all the time.
Oh, if you had nothing to do, you just walked down to that house and someone was there.
Yeah,
and I was cool with all of them because we were all roughly in the same age.
Yeah,
some of them were like in the same grade.
That's amazing.
As me and some of the brothers, so it was fun as hell. So and then we had a friend whose dad was like the biggest kind of hillbilly guy in the world, hard working son of a bitch.
Yeah.
But this guy was so funny too. But he was super hillbilly, and he would take a shower, come out with his towel on, and be drinking a beer in front of the TV, fall asleep, and his balls be hanging out underneath the towel for real. Like this guy was a real character. It was awesome.
That's amazing.
We had the boy band kid. We had one of those kids. We had a boy band kid in my neighborhood that for real like would do talent shows with 5 other kids.
What?
And they would do like some NSYNC bye type shit.
Is that a thing?
Dude, in the late 90s? Oh yeah. Late 90s, early 2000s, we had straight up boy band kids in my school.
Are you kidding me?
I don't know how and people loved it. Oh, don't get me wrong. Like if there was a talent show kind of thing, they were last. And people couldn't wait to watch them for real. Blonde hair, spiky frosted tips. I'm serious.
Let me tell you, in small town Indiana, that would never fly. Never. You would get eaten alive.
They end up missing. Yeah. That poor kid's gone. Oh, frosted tip. What happened to that frosted tip boy band?
I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah, they're gone. Oh, so then what's even better is I got in a fight with the boy band kid. because he was like, an athlete. He would play basketball.
Wait, he was
football.
an athlete and in a boy band.
Yeah, he was that kid.
He's really confused, right?
Yeah, seriously. So I think in the whole thing is too, he thought he was hot shit. I was mildly aggressive because of my childhood, and we just kind of clashed because he thought he was a jock and he was cool. I came from a pretty hard situation. I didn't give a fuck who he was.
Yeah.
And I never respected him. So we get in a fight in the front yard one day. We're arguing. He spits in my face.
What?
Yeah.
Dude, that's the ultimate
right?
Ultimate sign of disrespect.
Spit in my face and kind of like runs, right? We catch up. I kind of corner him to where it's like, no, we got to fight. So we're fighting. It's like for two 16-year-olds fighting, we're beating the shit out of each other, right? So we're fighting, beating the hell out of each other, and more characters show up. There's a guy coming down the street in like a Cadillac. Bunch of people are watching this fight, mind you, right?
Yeah.
So I got to keep up my street cred. So I'm fighting this kid in the front yard of the Brady Bunch house, of all places. So this guy pulls up in a Cadillac, black guy, looking dead on Tupac. Dead serious. He had just died like a couple years earlier. And so I'm in the middle of fighting. This guy pulls up in a Cadillac and stops. Literally yells, "Hey, stop fighting. You guys can't be fighting, man. Spread the love." And then all of a sudden, one of my buddies from the Brady Bunch house, he goes, "He's spitting his face." And you guys like, "Oh, fuck him up." We go back to fighting.
That's amazing. Serious. That's amazing.
He goes, "Oh, hell no. Fuck him up." And he understood. That's the ultimate. You never spit in someone's face unless you want to fight.
If somebody spits in my face, I don't care if it's Hulk Hogan. Yeah. You are required at that point to swing.
I think
you might get fucked up.
Yeah. Oh, you got to fight.
But you have to.
The implications don't matter.
Yeah.
If my little cute, sweet grandma spit in my face, I might trip her. I don't know if I'm going to beat her up, but she's going to get assaulted in one way or another. Yeah. I can't let that stand. Yeah. I'm like, "Grandma, you better chill the hell out." So, F is for family is what, got this all going. But the F is for family thing also reminded me of the Netflix. And
dude, this is so good.
What? Go over it slightly. What were we doing back in the day?
All right. So, to really give you an idea of what's going on, the first time I came over to Lee's house, okay, it's all remodeled now, looks completely different. But when I came in, when you walk in the door to the left, you have probably 6 bookshelves that are attached to the wall, floor to ceiling.
Yep.
And on the one side are his records, and on the other side is probably, no shit, 2,000 black DVD cases with labels on the outside.
And in alphabetical order.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just saying.
So I'm like, what the fuck is this? And so we start talking or whatever, and casually we finally bring it up, and I'm like, "Dude, what's going on with all the DVD cases in the living room?" And you're like, "Oh, so I am a Netflix subscriber." And here's the kicker on this is before the streaming service existed. So this is literally the mail-in DVDs. He was like, "I get 4 DVDs at a time, and I go to the video store down the street and I rent everything. I rip them all and then burn these movies, and I have them all at my house." And I was like, what the fuck? So I move in, right? And to speed up this process, I get Netflix too. So Lee got me hip to Netflix super early on. So literally every day we're getting something in the mail, it seems like, for DVD wise, and we would rip them all in a day and then literally mail them all back.
Yep.
They had to think we were crazy, because when we would go to the video store down the street, we each would rent, I think you could rent 5 at a time, I want to say, per membership.
It might have been more, but yeah. I think it was 8, to be honest.
It might have been 8. I can't remember. But I can remember walking out of there, each of us with because you were like, "I need you to open an account so we can get more."
Yeah.
So we would each go in there. We would rent every new release that you could possibly imagine, take them all out, bring them back to the house, and return them all the next day.
Literally.
And these people had to think we were crazy.
Yeah.
It was so fucking funny. And we filled the wall and then had a binder too, that's how many movies there were. You could watch literally. This is before streaming, so if you wanted something to keep it, this
you
is
needed a DVD.
Yeah, this is the way it was. It was so fucking funny, dude. I remember thinking like that was hilarious, and anytime anyone would come over to the house, it was like this point of interest in the living room. It was like, what the fuck is going on with this?
So here's the hustle, right? So what I would do is I would go to this video store and I'd rip everything from there, and I would go and get their flyer every single week. So they would put out a flyer that said, these are the top things being rented right now. These are the movies that are coming out in 2 weeks, those kind of things, right? And I would pretty much use that as like my little hot sheet.
Yeah.
Like, oh, these are the ones that everyone's going to want to be renting. So when they're out, I would go to work after I ripped them and I'd make a bunch of copies, and I would really just kind of assume how many do I think are going to sell, and I would make 10 to 15 of every single one. So it was only, and I also had a membership there. You could pay for a membership that made it to where everything was like 80% off. So I'm getting rentals for $1.50 and things like that. So I would get the big hitters for $1, and it was costing me, I think, with the membership, plus the DVDs, because I was buying them bulk online on eBay, it was costing me $1 a piece. And then I was selling these things for, I think, $5. Mm-hmm. So I'm making $4 every single time. Well, I'm selling at work. So I would go to work, I'd make out a list. I would write out a super clean list in the order that I think people want to see it in. And I would say, hey, do you guys want this, this, this? I sell it for this. And then I was doing deals. You could get 3 for this, 5 for this, and you can get money off kind of thing. And eventually I think I could get it down to, if you were buying a shitload, you could get them at $3 a pop or something like that. So I would then take that money and I put it on my Netflix stuff. And what I used Netflix for was to get my oddities. That's where I'm getting like Japanese horror movies.
Yeah.
That's where I'm getting like Swedish films that people may want. You know, I'm getting things that aren't at the video store. I'm using Netflix to get those off the radar things. Those, though, were good for kind of my friends. Because my friends, they might have all the normal movies, but if they want to watch some Japanese horror movie that's super hard to find, well, I have those too. So I'm going to work and I'm selling 10 to 20 of these literally every single day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm making hundreds of dollars, and I would take it and I'd burn myself a copy. I'd buy special editions for myself just so I could always have a nice copy. And really all it was doing was, I'm making money, but I'm also getting myself a huge collection of DVDs that I knew would be profitable.
Well, another thing too is like with the horror movie thing, that was really ridiculous because you like, and not only getting them online, like we said, you got to think about how early on this was. That I can remember going to Horror Hound and getting movies, and then like doing like a trade basically. Like somebody would come and you'd rip stuff, and we'd take it and blah blah blah. And the other ridiculous thing is, if you remember, and I'm sure this will come up multiple times because it's just such a ridiculous thing. When we cleaned out the basement, you had a trash bag full of those black DVD cases in there too. I think there were probably 2,000 more that were just not even used yet in the basement.
Yeah, I was buying those wholesale too.
Yeah, it was fucking wild.
I had a little operation going.
It was so fun.
Buying wholesale cases. There were people that would, like mechanics and things that were coming into my work, that would do like updates on the machines and stuff, and they knew I was DVD guy.
Yeah.
And they would for real order 70 DVDs. Like they'd go through my list. I had a stapled together list that had damn near every movie I had. People would go through and they're like, oh man, if I'm buying more than 20, it's only $3 a piece. Guys would just go through and just check. Anything that sounded cool to them, they wanted a copy of it. So, and it became ridiculous. There were times where I had to have like Ryan at the house or someone else making my DVDs while I was at work. I had to have a 24 operation going on. I would set up, I had to get a DVD drive that would burn 3 discs at a time. So one was doing one movie, one was doing another movie. I mean, I had like a pretty upscale thing going on.
I remember you taught me roughly how to use it, and you were like, at this time I need you to come in, put this disc in, blah blah blah. Yep. But then like there were times, like especially on the weekends, because you were working 7 days a week for a while, is you would be like, I got this started, I need you to pop this disc in and just follow the prompts. And this like I was so like every few hours I was coming over to switch the disc out and like change it out. It was so good, man.
It almost makes sense that like another thing that we wanted to talk about this week was that at work I'm taking on again more responsibility. You know, we don't necessarily want to call it a promotion. It's more like I'm just taking over some more things at work, taking on more responsibility, which is awesome. And it's like I've just always thought like that.
Yeah.
From the hustle to this, I get into processes and I like breaking them down into little things, setting up jobs. I love breaking down and learning how things work.
It's so good.
I love it so much. And the whole thing with taking more responsibility at work, it's like, it's so awesome because I just got promoted not long ago. So it is really cool to say like, well, if you guys thought I was doing shitty, you sure as hell wouldn't give me more. That's for sure, right?
Yeah.
But it really boils down to me always thinking you need to find a reason to do more at work, not do less. And I'm not saying that other people do that in my work, but it's just in general. I feel like people always are trying to find a way to fuck off more instead of doing way more. Like I'm always trying to get my day dwindled down as much as possible so that I can be like, hey, I got some time. I want some more responsibility. You know, and you got to voice those things. If you're not putting out there that you want more, no one's going to look at you like you can take more.
Exactly.
If you're just staying quiet, like, yeah, I'm barely making it by, 100% of my day is full and that's it. I'm not like that. I'm like, hey guys, I love this and I'm going to kill this and we're going to keep this train moving. I want more responsibility. I want to learn more about the business and I want to keep this train going of gaining more responsibility because ultimately at the end of the day, when you gain more responsibility, you get to create a vacuum. And you know how that is. It's like, it's some of the most fun things about being in management. Anytime you get promoted or take on more stuff, well, what does that do? Someone has to now step up. I love creating that vacuum. It is so much fun because then that's when you get to motivate people in a completely different way that you don't always get to do. Because it's like, hey guys, I'm going to be doing this and this now. I have way more to do. So you guys got to step up. Who's going to be the guy that's going to show me that they're the one that could replace me? Who's going to be that person? And then everyone takes that initiative like, I want to be that guy. You know what I mean? And you get to watch everybody try to come up with great ideas, try to be that guy that's going to backfill you. And it's just fun to motivate people. So when I gained more people this week, that's the first thing I thought of. I was like, man, this is so awesome to get a bigger team, more people that are awesome. That's just more people that get to shine under me because for me, I don't like taking credit for me.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I like my team looking like they're the shit. So as soon as I gain people, I'm like, good, because now this is even more people that get to look awesome. More than likely underappreciated people who I think are doing a killer job. And now I get to put it out there, what I think about them, which is that they're awesome at their jobs. And I get to tell that story now instead of, you know, maybe someone else who didn't tell that story. It's an awesome feeling, man.
Yeah, I really like that too. So one thing we've always talked about too that you really helped me with with transitioning from just being a grunt to a manager is learning that, hey, when you step into a position, and this is what you're going through right now, you've gone through it a lot recently, is stepping into a position, learning the position, and then for your own personal development, helping your superior out and helping the people below you, taking the tasks that you can pass along and delegate to them, give them more responsibility, take more ownership in what they're doing, take some more off your plate, then you can take more off of your boss's plate and just continue to develop everybody from top to bottom. And it's just a well-oiled machine. You are creating a better team. Everybody's happier because let's be real here. Most people, when they go to work, they want to do a good job. They want to contribute to the team. They want to be part of something. And what I found is, even though like I had a problem for a while with where I wanted to do everything myself and I couldn't trust anyone to do anything else, and what ended up happening was people thought that I thought they were incompetent, which is not true, but because I wouldn't give anything up, it just gave off that impression. So to go from that and say, understand that, hey, as a manager, my job should just be to delegate the task, move them along down the line. I'll take something from my boss's plate and we'll just keep pushing this on. And you know what? When you're ready to move on, then when I've given you tasks and I've realized, hey, this guy should be doing my job, now I can push him along. I just had this happen at work. I had a guy who I've been developing since I got there. He just got promoted and it's been great. So I really enjoy that portion of it, like personal development and taking things that maybe, don't seem like a big deal to me, but will be important to somebody else. And it becomes better in the long run. So
yeah, and you brought up a good point, which is servicing in both directions.
For sure.
Not only are you trying to bring up the guys that are below you, but you need to be making sure that you're making your management look as good as possible. Otherwise, they're never going to look at you like you're the guy in the first place if you're this asshole. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You need to be making them look as good as possible too. And at the end of the day, if you don't clear off their plate, they can't move along either. If they're like, hey, my team makes it to where I'm barely making it by in a day, well, where are they going to find the time to move on? You have to start taking that responsibility. So it's cool because you go down this pipe and you're just setting up the framework. You know what I mean? It's almost like when I came in as a guy at the bottom, it's almost like I'm going through the system and I'm going to re-put people in place that should be where they need to be. And I enjoy that so much. It's so much fun. It's so fun to watch people develop and become better people and then make more money and then their lives get to change. And it's a fun thing to be a part of. You know, I've watched people go from being guys that had no money, having like a messed up life, because you know when you're not meeting your basic needs with paying bills and buying things for your kids and you know the whole nine, when you're not meeting those things, life can be really hard. I've seen people come up in the world, make more money, then all of a sudden their marriage is better, then they dress nicer, and then they look good, and then they get inspired, and then they end up doing bigger things for themselves. I've watched people come in that were like little ragamuffins that had nothing, and then all of a sudden at one point they're coming in dressed up every day, they're ready for this new promotion, and then they end up leaving my business and go to chase their dreams. That's like the best compliment I could ever get. I think most people see someone quit and they're like, oh man, fuck that guy. You gave up. You know, not me. I'm like, wow, I motivated this guy. Instead of wanting to be a flunky who had no dreams and aspirations for the rest of his life, he thought of, I actually want to go back to college. I want to become this. I want to chase my dreams. I got a chance to give him, well, and if anything, I'm not even giving him, I'm giving him, if anything, I'm giving him a better eyesight of himself. He finally saw that he was worth way more than he ever gave himself credit for. And then all of a sudden he's leaving because he's going to go off to college. That's the best compliment in the world. So it's so much fun to watch people grow and have the opportunity. So it's like I don't take this for granted. You know what I mean? Like taking on more responsibility gives me more people, and that's just for me more people to be able to help push through and let shine.
Yeah, that's amazing, man.
I was really stoked about it. What are we excited about this week? Do we have a trailer?
Yeah, Wonder Woman came out this week.
I'm going to see Wonder Woman today. I've been excited about this movie for a while because, well, we'll watch the trailer and then we'll talk about why I'm excited about this.
Okay, I'm going to pop it on right
So, Wonder Woman trailer. Engage.
Diana.
Calves.
Fighting
Shield.
does not make you a hero.
What if I promise to be careful? Just a shield then.
Diana,
No sharp edges.
be careful of mankind.
I gotta tell you, I'm really happy with the way they did her costume and kept it true to the original, but still modernizing it. You know how sometimes that can get a little goofy. I think they did an awesome job making the costume look really good.
Well, and at one point, like, I feel like some people will pander too much to what, like, the guys want, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we want tits everywhere, and because they were trying to do a show at one point within the last 5-6 years, and the costume was literally so ridiculous. Like, they're just trying to be like, hey, don't you guys want to watch this show about a girl we call Wonder Woman and her tits are hanging out? And it's like, you're really killing the story.
Yeah.
Like, the story is a great story, and if you base it on a great character and take it away from just trying to be all about looks all the fucking time and just keep it true to the comics and make a good character, it can actually succeed for all the right reasons, and little girls can look up to it and stuff. Yeah, I totally agree. They're doing this one good.
I always think about it as like the Tomb Raider effect, how you had, like, when you think about the Tomb Raider movie, everybody always thinks about Angelina Jolie in skimpy clothing versus the actual great character that is Lara Croft. So, but I think they did an excellent job with the costume.
Yeah, and the feeling so far of the movie when you're watching the previews, it looks so awesome.
Yeah, I think so too.
I like the bluish green hue. You know
yeah,
what
we've
I mean?
talked about that.
I always love that.
Yeah, me too.
And that is a DC staple nowadays.
Yeah.
Diana.
Bunch of people shooting at her shield. There's a lot of awesome looking shots too.
You've told me this story.
What is this place?
Crazy as fuck.
We are the bridge to a greater understanding.
Right.
What is your mission?
Well, here's the thing.
Got that golden lasso.
You're in more danger than you think. The boys in the trenches called her Dr. Poison. Millions would die. The war would never end.
I'm going, Mother.
I love these landscape shots of her riding the horse.
Oh, those are so cool.
The overtop shot of her getting shot with a shield looks super cool.
Yeah.
So she just got her whip and the shield. Oh yeah, she's ready to fuck some shit up.
Well, technically the war's that way, but we gotta go this way first.
How can a woman fight in this? Ooh.
Who's this young woman?
Oh, that's so sick looking.
That's fucking
She's
awesome.
my,
Diana, Princess of the Mist.
Prince, Diana Prince.
Is it me? But I mean, there's so many spots in this that make amazing stills, almost like it's very comic booky. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
absolutely.
Like, whether it's like right now we're getting ready to watch the plane go through. There's a lot of cool things right there. There's a lot of little stopping points that you could tell they spent a lot of time with one frame specifically looking good. Like
Yeah.
you could walk away with these highlights where this looks so cool. I love this. I love this plane part that's coming up where he's going through blasting everybody. It's so crazy looking. This looks so awesome.
If you believe that this war should stop, help me stop it right now. What are you?
Oh my god, it's the dude from 30 Days a Night.
Is that him?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Look at that. You know what I mean? Her jumping up there. Lots of explosions. Lots of horses. You got the whip.
Wonder
Man.
Woman rated PG-13. Experience it
Her
now.
doing that slide on the ground thing. So
so
sick,
sweet.
dude. So
I love
sick.
that.
And it did. This preview specifically didn't show her where it shows her music. Her music. You don't know her music?
No, I haven't heard it.
Oh my! Are you kidding?
Yeah,
Did
no.
you not watch Batman v Superman?
I have not.
Oh my gosh, dude! Her music is. I'm telling you, it's going to be remembered for a very, very long time.
Really?
It's synonymous, like with her character. Like when she came up on screen, that music hits.
It's like a
so
the
you know
Wonder Woman theme.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Look up on YouTube a new Wonder Woman theme, or even maybe Batman versus Superman, Wonder Woman scene, something like that, to where we can see where it cuts in. Because I'm telling you, it's a good move. They weren't really doing that in any of these other superhero movies. He's looking it up. Batman v Superman.
First scene. I'm assuming this is it.
Yeah.
Well,
We'll go through this preview. Commercial. It's about United beating customer. Okay.
yeah, I have not seen this for obvious reasons to you.
Ryan is a DC hater. All right, Doomsday. He's blasting down the city. Those little ray eyes. He's blasting Batman out of the sky. Batman wrecks. He's flying through the ground. Doomsday's about to come up and kick Batman's ass. But then check this out.
Oh, shit.
All of a sudden, someone's taking the rays from Batman getting fucked up.
Oh, dude, it's got that Amazonian woman
Yeah, dude.
theme. That's tight.
How sick is that?
That's amazing.
That's like her theme music. It's so sick.
That's awesome.
I thought that was such a good move. To give her a for real music
That's amazing.
that means like she's fighting, she's here kind of thing. for sure they utilize that in the movie, and I bet it'll be
Well, that's like
awesome.
One of my favorite things about Star Wars too is that different characters and different, like when you have the Empire that comes up, you have the different themes and stuff like that. So I've always loved that.
I thought that was such a good move, and that was a move that no other comic book movie that I can think of took advantage of.
Yeah, I definitely like that.
Guardians of the Galaxy did take advantage of soundtrack being very important.
Oh yeah,
but they don't have a theme music for like one specific person.
Exactly.
And I'm excited about this because it's in a sea of DC sucking ass.
Yeah.
The DC movies have been so bad.
Fucking garbage.
God, they've been horrible. And I am a DC shill.
Yeah.
I love DC, but I can't even like pretend to give a shit about the movies they've been putting out. They're so bad.
They're fucking garbage.
Dude, and the Justice League looks horrible. Batman v Superman was bad. Suicide Squad, I'm all happy for Suicide Squad. It was shit. I mean, I was so bummed out, man. I'm like, what? They just keep falling short on all the goals, and it's killing me because I love DC and I don't really like Marvel, but I keep finding myself watching these fucking Marvel movies.
Well, I will say the thing that DC has going for them is their animated movies are incredible.
Yeah, no, they're very good.
They own the animated movie market, but they're even the Dark Knight series. I like it, but it doesn't do much for me as a Batman story.
Fucking nuts.
No, dude, I love Batman Begins. And I like parts of the Dark. I swear to you. I swear to you.
That's one of the greatest comic book movies ever
Here's
made.
the problem I have with it though, is in Batman Begins, you have what I characteristically look at for Batman. A character who is fighting in the shadows. He's in and out quickly. I love that portion of him, but in the Dark Knight, it's not so much that way. He's much more in like just the regular everyday life and this and that. And when I think about the Dark Knight, I think about the Dark Knight Returns and different portions of that. And I'm going to sound like a fucking comic book geek here, but one of the huge portions of the Dark Knight Returns, which is what this series is supposed to be based on, is how the news runs in the background and things like that. I think that they missed that. They missed portions where the mutants are in there as well. And I love that book, and I was upset when even the fact that they used the Joker. Now, don't get me wrong, Heath Ledger's Joker is amazing, but it takes away from who the story is supposed to be based on in general. And I have always had a problem with that. I like the movie. I just don't think it's a good Batman movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's a great Joker movie.
Yes, for sure.
You know, and I think, so my problem is always that when you go into movies with an expectation, you know, you go in there, this is Dark Knight Returns.
I made that mistake.
If you go in thinking that's what this needs to be, like just like Wonder Woman. If I go in thinking like this needs to be this origin story and I want this solved and I want this answered and I want to see what this looks like. If you go in with those expectations and it doesn't get hit, you end up feeling, you know, left wanting more. And I feel like whenever I go into those Batman movies, I was just stripping it away. Because you got to remember the Batman universe doesn't always go in continuity with each other. You know,
right.
It's like you get Jeff Loeb's take, you get this guy's take, you get that guy's take, you get everyone's take on the character. So for me, whenever movies come out, I got to always kind of surrender myself to, okay, this is their take. You know, when I see Civil War, there's going to be certain places where they may take some liberties.
Yeah.
And cut this out or cut that out, you know, and give their Civil War story. I can't go in there thinking like, I need to see Civil War be Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 dead on the comics that I read. Those liberties are going to be taken.
Sure. But so I have the same problem with Iron Man 3, right? So Iron Man 3, we have the Mandarin that comes into it. They completely fuck his character, and then they take one of the best Iron Man like one of my favorite Iron Man storylines, which is Extremis. They bring that into it a little bit, but they don't even tell the story correctly, and it's like they're trying to mash shit together that doesn't fit. The thing with now, I will say I don't like DC, but I am a Batman fan. Like I read a lot of Batman. I've read most of the big storylines when it comes to that. I actually just bought Court of Owls because on a recommendation based on you.
Yep.
And so
it's very good.
And so I've gone back and forth through this. The thing about Marvel is one thing I love about the movies is they've built this universe that connect everything together, and they drop little Easter eggs here and there, which is what comic books are supposed to do anyway. I mean, you know this, is whereas when you go through, even in like older comics, when they would reference another comic book series, they would put a little asterisk next to it and say, check out fucking Spider-Man Weekly issue number 64, because this is what they're referencing in this. And so I like that about the Marvel movies, is they build a universe, whereas DC is now trying to play catch up, and because of that, they fucked the universe, and they're not taking the time to build it correctly when they could make a fucking great story.
Yeah.
And they're not doing that. That's my big problem with that. And look, I know I'm a fucking Marvel nut hugger over here, so take my opinion with a grain of salt. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm going to shit on DC regularly, and that's fine. But I just don't think that they're doing it the correct way.
So all in all, though, it's, the point of this is I feel like Wonder Woman is the positive injection that DC needs right now. You've had Marvel killing it, and then they just put out Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which was unbelievably great, and just as good, and in some ways better for me than the first one, which seemed untouchable.
Yeah.
So when you put out those two movies that are amazing, and DC's has been dropping the ball, I feel like this is what they need. I'm watching it today. Hopefully it pulls through.
Yeah, and I will say, just in closing on that, the one thing that DC is doing correct on this is Marvel doesn't, outside of Jessica Jones that I can think of, have a strong solo female character movie, and they could really, really do this with that. And I think that's, having a powerful female character in a standalone movie that does well could be really good for them, and I would love to see that. So,
and it matters to me too, because I have a little daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
I would love. I mean, I love comic books. I love movies. I would love to have that little film that she could grow up and geek out about, because it's a girl who's strong, who's kicking ass. Like I want that to be there for her.
Absolutely.
So I'm hoping that this is a great movie. Seriously, just not only for my own reasons, but I hope for her. You know what I mean? Anytime I see a little movie come out, I'm like, shit, I wish that would have came out 3 years from now. It'd be perfect for her.
Yeah.
So let's go down to the fight news.
Okay.
We'll go to UFC 212 in Rio last night.
What a fucking card, dude. That was so great.
It was so good.
We had a blast.
Tons of finishes. It was so much fun. Along with the live chat, it added a whole another element that was so fun.
I had so much fun last night. Like,
it
both
flew
of us.
by.
Oh, I know.
I feel like there are times where we will watch fights sometimes, and it was like, okay, that was a card, and we have to talk about it, and cool, it's over. But that one was like an experience. I felt like when I was talking about at the top, I felt like we went through something with all the people in the live chat. I felt like we were all in a room, like having a good time. It was so weird because everybody's chatting. They're asking questions. I'm answering questions. There are people complaining about other people. It was like being in a big group of friends, just having a good time.
And what
so much fun.
What you guys like, Lee and I, for us, it's just like hanging out, and to bring more people into that experience was just super cool for us. Great. It's kind of like the podcast, like version 2. Like, it was just it was a really fun night. So.
Yeah, and it seemed like people were enjoying it.
Yeah. So let's talk about this fucking amazing fight. Jose Aldo versus Max Holloway.
Wow.
What a night, dude.
That is going in style, but oh man, if you did not see it, Max Holloway ends up finishing Jose Aldo in round 3 TKO. Unbelievable. Before the fight, what were you thinking about the fight?
So, man, first of all, from a wrestling fan standpoint, I thought the approach that Max Holloway had before the fight was absolutely hilarious from a building the fight standpoint. The Jose Waldo thing was so funny.
Saying, where is he? Where's Aldo?
And I love the confidence of Max Holloway. I think he came off really strong from his presence was great. I loved that. But that being said, watching Jose Aldo come off of his last fight, I just was like, I don't see how Holloway has the tools to finish this. He's not as strong a mixed martial artist as we've seen in the past compared to Jose. So for me, I got to think, Jose is going to bury those leg kicks. He's going to keep distance, keep Holloway away, and if it goes to the ground, he's going to win that fight. And ultimately, we kind of saw it in the first round. Like, I was like, this is where this is going, because Holloway got rocked, and it's like, so coming into the fight, the first round was exactly what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. So beforehand, to me, I think the only one thing that, and I said this on the live chat multiple times last night, was for me, it comes down to Jose, does he get gassed? If he gets gassed with Max Holloway, I feel like that's going to be bad news. But this is what I said. The reason why I said Jose Aldo was I don't think Max has the pressure to make Jose get tired enough to be able to take advantage of the fact that I think he'll get gassed. I thought gas was the factor, which it was. It ended up. But what ended up happening was you got to think a wrestler that's going to clinch him and stay on him that can make Jose tired. Max doesn't do that. He doesn't pressure fight like that. He doesn't really clinch like that. He doesn't shoot for takedowns very often. So I'll tell everybody, I think if he could get him gassed, I think Max could pull away because he's a high output fighter. I think he can do it for 5 rounds. And then when you're talking long run, I think he can win the fight. But when it comes down to it, he doesn't have that pressure fighting that can make Jose tired. So I think Jose, being the more crisp, clean striker and way more multifaceted, he should be able to leg kick him and have insanely fast counters, which he does. He should be able to pick Max apart. More than likely not finish him, but just batter him into a 5-round decision. That's what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
So then what we end up seeing in the fight was interesting because first round, though he's getting the best of Max, he's utilizing the one thing that we thought, which was the blitzing counters. Mm-hmm. And I mean, these counters are, if you haven't seen the fight, I mean, they're fucking Max up pretty bad. He nails him a bunch of times where we're like, whoa, if he stays on him right now, he caught him with a left hook, right straight, that made Max fall back to the cage, and then he does a flying knee right into Max's face, and you're like, wow, this is just the first round.
That knee was, I thought it was done.
It was
there.
bad.
Yeah.
He's very durable. Max has always been very durable. So he puts it on him, and we're like, wow, the round ends, and I'm thinking to myself, this is about just what I thought. I mean, he's just going to pick him apart. But we hadn't seen any leg kicks yet, which I thought was odd because Max is very sit on the front foot. Mm-hmm. He's like a Diaz brother in a way. But then what you start seeing in the second round is Max starts getting a little bit more comfortable and using way more head movement and staying out of range on shots, not leaving himself overhanging for counters. And then you see Jose trying to throw bombs and missing a lot. Yeah. All of a sudden, Jose starts missing and he's whiffing a good amount. And I start looking and I'm like, man, he's starting to look a little bit tired. And then Max starts clowning him. Remember at the end of the round, putting his hands up, smacking Jose.
That was the changing point of the fight.
It never came back ever after that because all of a sudden Jose starts looking normal. He starts looking like a blitzing nonstop kind of took it out of him. And then third round comes around and Max starts pouring on him again. He lands a 1-2 that mildly cracks Jose and kind of stuns him. And then he hits another 1-2 that just puts Jose down. Jose falls to the ground. Max jumps on top of him and just starts pounding him. It looked like literally, if you go back and you get to watch the highlights, you'll see Jose's head smacks the ground. I mean, he's damn near out.
Yeah.
But since Max follows him down, he about punches him back awake.
Yeah.
And then starts punching him. And being that Jose is so hurt, it's not an indictment on his jiu-jitsu whatsoever. Because when you're that hurt, I mean, my gosh. But he's trying to survive, but he's getting mounted and pounded. Then he's back in half guard. Then he's mounted again, getting pounded. And he just keeps getting hit nonstop. He ends up turtling. And eventually it was this Max is nonstop going left, right, punching him. And John is like, even though Jose is trying to tell him, like, I'm okay, it doesn't matter because you're not moving anymore and you're only getting hit. It doesn't matter. If you can't intelligently defend yourself, we pretty much got to stop it. Because granted, it could have probably been stopped before this, let's be honest. I mean, with a lesser-known fighter, it probably would have been stopped. But you're trying to give a legend a chance, and I understood that. And Max referenced that at the press conference where he said, hey, he's a legend. I would hope that they would give me the same chance to not get finished too. So, but they end up stopping it with a TKO. I mean, and it was unbelievable. I mean, he got tired, and to see Max now culminate with the 145 title after what he's gone through, I mean, my God, he went through the ringer of 145. I mean, it was just so crazy. It was such an awesome fight, too. I mean, if you watch it, the first 2 rounds are high octane. Jose just throwing bombs and smashing Max just for it to turn around the next round and get finished in the opposite direction. It was mildly similar to McGregor Diaz 1. It was like where one guy's smashing and then the tables turn and it goes the other direction. I mean, it was a great title fight for 145.
I can't imagine what it feels like as a fighter after round 1, parts of round 2, where Jose is winning the fights. He's stunned Max a few times in the first round, and then at the end of the second round, for Max to come through and start acting the way he did at the very end of the round, I gotta imagine as you start to get tired, the thought that's creeping into your mind of, I can't believe this guy is still going on this. And then at the end, after Aldo went down and Max came down on top of him, I mean, he's dropping those punches. It looks like he could have gone for 30 minutes doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just boom, boom, boom. I mean,
It didn't look labored.
No, the pace was not slowing at all. It's like, hey, I can do this all day. So I was really impressed with the stamina that he brought into those rounds. I thought that was incredible. The end of the second round was like super fun. Then coming out in the third was just, it was a great fight.
Yeah, it was very Diaz-like.
Yeah, for sure.
It was awesome. So you got to think, though, what's so impressive about Max is that he's on an 11-fight win streak. At 145, that is crazy.
Yeah.
An 11-fight win streak there is crazy because when you talk, and I couldn't help but think about this, when guys complained and say they didn't like Conor for some reason or another, if you don't like Conor and you look at his record, I'm not taking away any wins for Conor whatsoever, but when you're looking at his record and you see how he got to the top, it was mildly skipping around. You know what I mean? Like the guys he was fighting, you cannot put them on the same caliber as what Max did, and it's not as long either. But because he came in the UFC and he fought Marcus Brimage, which at the time was nothing too crazy. But he knocks him out. Then he fights Max Holloway, which is Max's last loss is to Conor McGregor. Granted, he was hurt, but it goes to a decision. Mm-hmm. And then he fights Diego Brandao, and he fights Dustin Poirier, Dennis Seaver. So far, you got to think he's fighting 5 guys that are all stand-up guys that are pretty much never going to try to take him down whatsoever.
Yeah.
He's avoided all wrestlers. I mean, he's not fighting a guy that's going to take him down. I'm not talking shit on Conor for that reason, because I don't think he's just picking these fights, but it's something that's sketchy.
We got to see it. Yeah.
And you got to wonder, like, when a guy goes to the top, you want to see them go through different things. I want to know what he looks like against a pressure fighter. I want to know what this guy, when a guy's becoming a contender. It's like we saw him doing stand-up and he knocked the guy out, but then he fights another stand-up guy and another stand-up guy and another stand-up guy. No, we get it. He's great at stand-up, but what about everything else? Have we seen a guy that has a great chin that can stand with him for 3 rounds and take a lot of punishment? Have we seen him with a guy who likes to clinch and put him up against the cage? Have we seen him against a guy that wants to take him down? That's the whole thing that I'm wondering at 145 while Conor was coming up in the ranks. I'm like, I like contenders to be able to solve a couple different issues. Can we at least see that he has good takedown defense before we give him a title fight? So then, I know most people are going to reference, well, he beat Chad Mendes. Chad Mendes took that fight on a 10-day notice.
That's what I was going to say.
You watch that fight, and Chad did exactly what we all thought he would do. We're like, Chad is the wrestler that Conor hasn't fought. Chad is going to take him down, and then you watch the fight in the first round. That's exactly how it was. Because when a guy comes in on 10-day notice, he doesn't have cardio, so you're going to get about 1 round of what Chad really is. Mm-hmm. And what happened? He took Conor down 2 times, battered him from being on top. I mean, Conor never did anything. And then even stand-up, Chad was landing non-stop on Conor. He was landing hooks all over the place. Granted, he wasn't hurting him. Chad does have good power, but he was tagging him and not really hurting Conor. But point is, he won that first round by a long shot. Then you see the second round, Chad comes out and he's half the fighter he is. He looks dead. I mean, he's barely moving anymore. He misses a takedown, and then from there, he's so gassed from the missed takedown that he just gets picked apart and KO'd. That is not good enough to say that he can deal with a wrestler. And then it's like, then he fights Jose Aldo. There is nothing you can take away from the Jose Aldo fight. Knocking one of the best pound-for-pound guys out at the time in 13 seconds, you can't take anything away from that. But the point is, what did we solve? We solved that he can knock out a bunch of people who were staying with him. Mm-hmm. We get it. That is awesome, and it's so much fun, and I'm not taking away from that. But when we look at what he went through, it's like you went through maybe 2 top 10 guys. I mean, at one point before he fights Chad Mendes, you got to think he's fighting unranked. I think maybe a number 10, and then he fights another guy that's unranked, and then he fights Chad Mendes on a 10-day notice, and then all of a sudden he fights Jose.
Yeah.
He might have fought one ranked person, and then all of a sudden he's fighting the champion. Where go to Max, though, and he goes on an 11-fight win streak. And in there, you got Andre Felice, who at the time was like a surging contender, kind of like Max. And then he fights some unranked kind of guys, much like Conor. But then he just goes ranked guy on ranked guy on ranked guy. He goes through the rankings the way you're supposed to. He fights Cub Swanson, who is going to be a guy that's going to stand up and bang with you. But then he fights Charles Oliveira, a guy that can also work in takedowns, a guy that is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's got a more well-rounded game. And then you fight a guy that's got hands that will knock out just about anybody, and Jeremy Stevens. You got Ricardo Lamas. You got Anthony Pettis. He's fighting ranked dudes. He worked his way through the division the way you should.
Yeah.
It isn't really comparing the two, but it's almost like, isn't this what we like seeing? Like that culmination, you'll never be able to take away and have any asterisks on what Max Holloway just did.
Absolutely.
An 11-fight win streak, working your way through the rankings the way you should, and then coming out on the end, beating Jose Aldo and dominating him the way that you did. That's not what Conor did. Conor clipped him. Anybody can be clipped. You know what I mean? That's not taking anything away, but he got clipped. Max didn't do that.
Yeah.
Max got in a fight with him. He survived. He came through on the other end and then ended up TKOing him. We've never seen that with Jose.
Yeah.
Never. Getting caught is one thing. Everybody gets caught. But to get dominated and finished, that's way more definitive. So it's like he comes out on this with an 11-fight win streak. We're going to always talk about now this streak. He doesn't even have to really win. I mean, hopefully he now defends against Edgar or something like that. And if he can win that, wow, he really puts himself up in some all-time rankings at 145.
Absolutely. You know, and you take a look at the like you said, the names that have come through on that. I think the Jeremy Stevens and the Anthony Pettis, the Jeremy Stevens one especially sticks out to me just because of the conversation that went back and forth between him and Conor in the first place, and I can understand why he'd be upset about that because he got jumped over by him. So
Yep.
I don't know if we'll ever see Conor back at this weight again.
Right.
I
yeah,
mean,
probably not.
Probably not. But for me, it was just a lot of fun to see a guy who is a likable guy come through, you know, work his way throughout the rankings, get to the title match the correct way, and then beat a legend, and then also respect him at the end. So where does Jose go from here, though, is the real question, because it's been shaky the last few fights.
Yeah, so for me, what you want out of Jose is probably him to get some new scenery, right? I mean, what's funny is, I think if somebody said, when Jose wins, what would he do? I probably would have said the exact same thing. If he wins and Edgar is pretty much the next guy in line, he's already beat him twice, I feel like 145 needs something new. I would have thought vacate the title, let Max and maybe Edgar fight for the title, and then you go up to 155 and start working some bigger fights over there. That's what I would have thought. And now that he lost, it's weird because I almost think the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I almost think he should be done with 145, call it a day over there. You lost to a guy who was a double division champ in Conor, and you got beat by Max Holloway while he was on an 11-fight win streak. There is no shame in that. You know what I mean? Jose was the best featherweight for 10 years straight.
Yeah.
There is no shame in losing to those two guys and calling it quits at 145. I wouldn't see any shame in it. So to me, I think he should go to 155, get some new life up there. And we've seen a lot of success from guys recently who left their smaller weight division and went up.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about Claudia versus Karolina.
Oh, man. That fight was awesome. Before the fight, we absolutely thought it was going to go 100% how it did. Styles make fights. And to me, I told everyone on the live chat too, is that Karolina, though she is a great kickboxer, and her versus Joanna, you can look at them and say, hey, granted, Joanna won the fight against Karolina, but Karolina doesn't have the same takedown defense that Joanna has. She's Joanna light. She's not as good. She's not as good at striking, and she's not as good at takedown defense. So when you got Claudia, who gave Joanna hell, you got to think to yourself, what's this going to look like? With Karolina, she's going to get taken down and probably eaten up. Now, did I think the fight would go the way it did? No way. I mean, she ripped through Karolina like she was nothing.
Absolutely.
Standing up, wasn't necessarily tagging her, but holding her own. Karolina throws a 1-2, gets overextended. Claudia goes in, gets her hands together, and she does that one takedown where you kind of like, you get S-grip around their body and you lean forward, almost kind of take someone towards their hands, and it makes them put their feet out in front of them so that you don't fall forward, and then you almost trip them over your feet backwards.
Yeah.
And trips her down, gets side control. Karolina makes the terrible mistake of trying to go away instead of flattening out and get guard back. She goes away, which I thought was nuts, honestly. I think that's why she was so upset afterwards. Like, she made such an absolutely gigantic mistake, because when you got such a great grappler on the ground with you, to give up your back, that's crazy to me. And she tries to go away from her. Claudia takes her back and, I mean, chokes her really quick. She wasn't on the back very long. I mean, it was impressive. To watch her rip through her was crazy. It was awesome.
It really showed that how good Claudia is, and they just didn't seem to be even in the same universe when it came to grappling at all.
Yeah, no, not even close.
And I mean, it just goes to show how good Claudia is. And that as fun as that fight was to watch, though, I can't help but think after that, what is going to happen now in that division? I mean, we've seen the Joanna fight multiple times.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah, it's tough because Claudia is essentially Frankie Edgar. You've lost twice to the champion. How do you get another fight?
Yeah.
To me, I don't think people mind seeing a third fight if she continues what she's doing right now. Can you do that once and just move on? No. But if you could finish another top-ranked girl right now and have an emphatic win, I think you could probably get right back in there and get a third fight. I don't think we would care because Joanna didn't finish Karolina like that. Mm-mm. So if you all of a sudden go out there and finish Karolina, and then what I think Claudia needs to do next is fight Jessica Andrade, because Jessica Andrade also went to a decision with Joanna. What if she goes out there and just smashes Jessica Andrade? So it's like you took out the second and fourth girl in the world who Joanna went to a decision with, and you finished both of them. I think we'd want to see another fight.
I 100% agree with that. I think that Rose is obviously getting the next title shot.
Yeah.
And then you've got to see another fight with Claudia against a top-ranked opponent. And then if we go from there, then you can justify giving her another title shot for sure. But it's just tough as a fight fan even though some of those fights have been close, you really got to do something beforehand to sell that fight again, because I can understand why people would have a hard time seeing that. So
I think the only difference is knowing that it was so close. At least you know that it isn't like she's getting blown out and we're like, oh, we've seen this.
Yeah.
Where Joey Benavidez versus DJ was a little bit different, because though he probably is the next guy that should get a title shot, well, the last time they fought, he got KO'd.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Bouncing the head off the ground, KO'd. That's tough. Claudia and Joanna are going to decisions that you're like, I'm not sure who won.
Yeah.
Like, going into the fourth and fifth round, if Joanna doesn't win these 2 rounds, she's going to lose. That's how close it is. When it's that close on fights, I don't mind seeing another one. Now, if it was she's just getting shut out every fight and then getting TKO'd and another one, that might be a little bit different, because then I'm like, well, why do we want to watch this? Well, the reason we want to watch this is because it's like 30 seconds different in control in both of this fight, and Claudia could be on a 2-fight win streak against Joanna.
Yeah.
That's how close it was. So I think if she can emphatically finish another top-ranked girl or get a good solid win, I don't see why not, because who else is in the line right now? You know, there's no one else going to be really set up, because a lot of people are coming off losses.
Yeah. So let's talk about an interesting fight, one that I was very surprised didn't get finished, which is Vitor versus Nate Marquardt.
Yeah, so we'll go through the rest of the card fairly quick. So Vitor and Marquardt, I honestly thought that Vitor had enough firepower to probably put Marquardt away. He didn't. It ended up being kind of a slow, tactical, veteran kind of fight. He pulls out the decision. It was pretty close. you know, and then he talked about having 5 more fights after that. And the problem is we almost can only see Vitor against unranked people because it feels like anybody top 10 is going to eat him up. You know, what does Vitor do from here? I don't know.
I know he's calling out Chuck Liddell, so we'll see what the Legends division has to offer. So let's go through Borrachina versus Bambos.
Borrachina. Yeah, him versus Babose was really cool because at the weigh-in, they're all in each other's face, getting crazy. I was really excited about this fight. They're both very high-octane guys, and that was as sold, right? They just went at it, beat the shit out of each other until finally Bambose got so tired, and Borrachina pretty much just kept pouring it on him, ends up knocking him out. I mean, man, that fight...
Is that the only way you can say that name correctly?
Yeah. I can't go Borrachina. I gotta go Borrachina. I feel like one of the announcers for Jiu-Jitsu and ADCC. Borrachina.
You remind me of Alex Trebek right now. He always, whenever there's a French word, he's always like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I have to get my mind and I'm from Brazil. Say this correctly. Borrachina.
I think you're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, it was awesome to watch Borrachina settle their score. And, man, those guys just went balls to the wall. I mean, it looked like they were either going to knock each other out or fall over from exhaustion at one point with how fast they were going. And it was cool to see it get finished.
Let's talk about Yancy Medeiros over Eric Silva.
Man, Eric Silva, unfortunately, is like the consummate underperformer nowadays. When everyone was terrified of him, he was killing everybody. And then ever since then, once people saw like the chink in his armor that if you can last through his storm, that he can more than likely get finished. Damn if he doesn't get finished by mostly everybody.
Yep.
Now it is like he's either going to finish you or you're going to finish him. And if you can last through his first barrage, make it to the second round, you get finished. Even though, I mean, we cannot take away that the stoppage was a little weird because he about knocked him out. He falls to the ground, he gets on top, he hits a couple rabbit punches from like a little half guard kind of thing, and they stop it. Even though it looked like Eric Silva was trying to come up and get underhooks, you could call it a late stoppage.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really take away the fact of where Eric Silva's kind of been lately.
Yeah.
The luster has really come off of that guy. People were thinking he was the next thing at 170. He was kind of like a new Thiago Alves. A guy who can flying knee guys and Superman punches, and he was very flashy and knocking guys out in crazy fashion. It sucks to see him take another loss, you know. Yancy, it's cool to see at least Yancy come through. Another Hawaiian guy with Max also winning on the night. You know, if they go to Hawaii, people will eat this up. Now you got Yancy, you got Holloway, you could have a BJ fight out there. It'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. So let's go Rafael Assunção over Marlon Moraes.
Yeah, Moraes, you know, coming over. I was so excited about Marlon Moraes coming over from World Series of Fight. He's such an exciting guy. Comes from an incredible camp. And I thought I said this beforehand, I thought they gave him too tough of a fight. Rafael Assunção has been like the number 2 guy forever. That's pretty much anybody who's going to get a title fight, you more than likely got to go through him kind of thing. And I thought that was too much too soon. Let the guy come in and get mildly established in a winnable fight. I thought Rafael was way too much, way too fast. To me, give him a Brian Caraway, give him an Aljamain Sterling. Well, actually, he probably can't do Aljamain Sterling because I think they're from the same camp, so scratch that. It would have actually been better to do a Brian Caraway because Brian Caraway beat Aljamain, and then I'm sure he would want to maybe make up for his teammate losing that fight. Give him something that's winnable. A 6 through 9 kind of guy, or maybe even higher rank, just to get him in the door so everyone can get excited about this guy. I felt like it really took the shine off of him, and I thought it was a misstep even giving him that fight.
Yeah,
because now no one knows. No one even cares. Everyone knows Rafael Assunção, a guy that we're not all that into because he's not the most exciting guy in the world. He beat Moraes, and now we have no reason to know him either. So we get nothing out of that. You got a guy that's still going to be like number 3 in the world, and then you got Moraes who came over with a bunch of hype, and now no one cares about that either. You know, I thought it was just a misstep.
All right, so one thing we didn't get to talk about last week because it was going on as we were recording was the Stockholm, Sweden card. So 2 quick hits here. So Gustafsson versus Glover Teixeira.
That was so awesome.
Yeah, very impressive. Dude, his uppercut is unbelievable.
What's great is, even though you got to talk about the last couple years of John Jones and talk about DC being the two guys that run the division, Gus is not far away. You cannot not mention Gus in that conversation. We said this last week. He had, within a half a round of beating DC and within a half a round of beating John Jones. He was right there multiple times. And then he gets in another awesome, memorable fight with Glover. I mean, at one point, they're tagging each other at the beginning. It was very back and forth. And then Gus starts landing that jab uppercut. It looked like a video game. You know, we're in a video game.
He was landing like 4 pieces, dude. It was crazy.
Nonstop. He's landing great combinations. And then like a video game where you just hit someone with the same combination and they get like mad about it.
Yeah.
That's what he ends up doing. He landed that jab uppercut, seriously, 15 different times in the fight. And then when he knocks him out, he lands it 3 times in a row. Jab, uppercut, jab, uppercut, jab, uppercut. And eventually Glover falls. I mean, it was so awesome. I love that he came in with such steam, you know, because Jimmy Manuwa, with what he's been doing to guys, you probably would see him as being one of the top guys in the division. But with this win, Gus pretty easily hopped right over him. I mean, I don't know anybody who would say that Jimmy Manuwa should have got the title fight. You would automatically say Gus should get that next title fight.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, to me, Gus, I would say, is going to get the next title fight, and then they've already, in the next fight, we'll kind of explain it, they've given Jimmy a different fight. So the other fight on last week's card that was super telling was Volkan Ozdemir versus Misha Serkinov. Well, that fight, everybody was kind of talking about why is Ozdemir ranked number 5? Because he seriously didn't beat anybody other than OSP. Mm-hmm. He beat OSP in a split decision and then somehow goes to 5. He didn't fight any of the other guys, has no other big wins. He was 1-0 in the UFC. It didn't really make much sense. And then he puts everybody kind of to shame when he goes and knocks out Misha Serkinov. It was super impressive, really fast, hits him right behind the ear and floors him. And then they book him in a fight right away against Jimmy Manuwa. So like we said last week, it was awesome that we're starting to see things play out in 205, where you have people that when they win fights, you kind of know what's going to happen next. Because now we have some eyesight. What's going to happen? We're going to have DC and John Jones fight. We're going to see then Alexander Gustafsson probably fight the winner of that. And then you're going to have Jimmy Manuwa fight Volkan Ozdemir, which more than likely will fight the winner of that. You got a lot of eyesight now, and you could probably get some rematches in there. Glover's still a live dog. Who knows if Rumble's going to stay away? Shogun might take a fight against someone in between there. So even if Jimmy Manuwa loses, does Jimmy go back and fight a Shogun? We actually have some fights that are worth seeing. 205 is taking shape. We got some new blood in there. I find it to be pretty exciting. So I'm down with 205 right now. I love, as long as John Jones comes back and it's normal, I'm all about it.
First time in a while, too, because that used to be the division, I mean, for a long time. So it's cool to see that finally make its way back. So, and there was a little heat with John Jones and Gustafsson this week on Twitter, too. Did you see all that?
Yeah, so I think it was because after the fight, the press conference, Alexander Gustafsson kind of talked a little bit of shit about John Jones, saying that he wasn't a champion because he's a bad person and things like that.
Yeah, he said was not a champion because he didn't win championship fights.
John Jones is saying this about Alexander Gustafsson.
Because of the lack of heart, yeah. So, and they go back and forth
Well,
on this.
what he says is, he goes, so we have the tweets up now. He goes, John Jones is responding to Alexander Gustafsson and says, I'm not a champion because I'm a bad person? Question mark, like the thinky emoji. And he goes, you're not a champion because you don't win championship fights. 100. Oof. Which is a burn.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good burn.
And he goes, here's a little FYI. You didn't lose against DC and I because of your cardio. It was because your lack of heart.
How dare you. I feel like Gustafsson, of all people, you could never question his heart. Like, ever. I mean, that guy stays in there against anybody.
Oh, this next one gets real tough. So, of course you are rooting for Daniel Gus. You might as well pray for him while you're at it.
Yeah, I thought it's funny because when Alexander Gustafsson responds to that and John Jones says, does anybody understand that? I thought he had the more incoherent tweet of all this shit.
Yeah.
But he says, and then John Jones gets a little crazy. See, now John's letting it all hang out. I'm not a champion because you don't like my personality. Fuck you. Oh yeah, this is the best tweet of all. This will be the last one. John Jones is a bad person with quotes around it. You sound like a fucking dork. Congrats on the engagement, though. Beautiful woman. He's like, while I'm going to talk shit about you, I am going to congratulate you on the marriage, and she's very pretty. Thank you.
Yeah, and then Gustafsson, he's talking about how John Jones against you because of the absence of USADA. So he's bringing up the steroids thing, and then he goes, I root for DC because I want you to win, and after the way I beat you, I promise I will pray for you.
Yeah.
And that's when John Jones says it didn't make any sense, which made perfect sense to me. So
what's next? What else we got?
Okay, so let's move on to some news. So let's talk about Brandon Vera kicking Magana out of Alliance.
Yeah,
MMA.
so we talked about Angela Magana last week. That was the whole Cyborg punching her at the retreat. A lot of people have opinions on this, of course. And then I guess with all the more trolling that Magana was doing, the owner of her gym, which I think is Brandon Vera, over at Alliance, finally, I guess, had enough of her continuing this BS, which most of the fighting community really didn't support Angela Magana at all on this interaction. And Brandon Vera responds with this.
Okay, I'm going to read through this. These are not my words.
We'll edit one word specifically.
I will for sure do that. So I was going to leave this alone, but this trifling C word is still at it. She kind of embodies what's wrong with the world today. Super entitled, whines and cries about everything. Instagram ass famous, and no other skills whatsoever. Pretty worthless. Bitch, you got your card pulled for cyberbullying someone you thought you'd never run into. Super drama queen. Do me a favor and keep your ass away from my Alliance MMA. I super feel like a bully for posting this, but she's a prime example of the world gone to shit, crybaby ass. The only positive thing about it is she isn't a guy. Fuck, there's been plenty of times as well. P.S. There's a reason why no one is standing up for you, not your homegirls, training partners, even fighters at the summit. You deserved it. Also, your hospital picks are shit for a case since you went to a Snoop Dogg concert that very same evening. If this burns any of you all and want to talk about it, I'm in Guam now and back to PH next week. Come on out.
Good Lord. I mean,
Talk about throwing some shade, dude.
Oof.
That's crazy.
That was scathing. That was scathing. He demolished her in that. I thought he went mildly too hard just on calling her the C word. You could have said all those things and not say that, and that came off so bad. It's in the first sentence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's interesting to me to see how he kicked someone out, which I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I just don't think you have to call her that just because some people may write off your good opinion just because you called someone something, you know?
How much hate do you have to have for her, though, as a public figure to post that online?
Well,
I mean, it's got to be insane.
I'm sure he was at his limits with her already. I mean, this sounds like a person who was already pretty mad. It doesn't seem like this one instance can push you over the edge. Isn't it funny, though, to watch how he handles it compared to Marcelo Garcia?
Yeah.
If you're not aware, Marcelo Garcia kicked 2 grapplers out of his gym for being like shit talkers and not representing his gym well and blah, blah, blah. And the way that he does it is like there was a video taken where he's giving everyone like a motivational speech on teamwork and how you're supposed to act and represent the sport in the school. That's his way of kicking people out. And Brandon Vera just puts out this like, you know, this super putting her out there and making her look like shit. It's just funny. 2 people act completely different.
Yeah.
I'm not saying one is better than another. It's just, but it goes along with personalities.
Yeah, difference of personalities.
Yeah,
for
Marcelo is considered like the nicest guy in the world, and Brandon Vera is an MMA fighter, you know? So it was pretty interesting.
So, and along with that, it's going to touch on the fact that training with women in general, as far as the male-female thing going on, and it really comes into play on this.
It's different, man.
Yeah.
It is very different. I've trained with girl MMA fighters, multiple. I've trained with jiu-jitsu girls, multiple. I'm saying from like kids that are phenoms, 13 to 16-year-olds that get in the adult class because they're literally just better than the kids. I've gone with older women that are just trying to stay in shape and be passionate about jiu-jitsu. I've been in there with MMA fighters that are active. I've rolled with from Chicago, a world champion brown belt. I've trained with a lot of girls, and it's a different world. You know, they're different animals compared to guys. Guys can kind of train and let things go. Girls take things very personal. You also have like the dating aspect of gyms. It's a tough situation, you know, and I've seen a lot of drama with girls being in there, and that's what made me almost understand slightly that Brandon probably was fed up with some other stuff going on in the gym well before this, because training with women is different, and sometimes they do get very angry, and a guy might keep it internal, walk out, not say anything, where a girl might, you know, go around, talk some shit. You know, talk some shit to you because you're a guy and you can't do anything to them.
Well, understandable too, because that's a tough world for women to live in, though.
Oh my God, yeah,
yeah. That's difficult. So I can understand where you could take something the wrong way because you're already in such a high testosterone environment that I would think that at certain points in time you have to kind of present yourself that way.
100%.
But there's also a line there too, and it sounds like she crossed that.
Yeah, luckily I don't feel like I've ever trained with someone who acted like her.
Yeah.
You know, that's putting like photos on the internet every single day, trying to act like you're hot shit, the cyberbullying kind of shit. Luckily I've never had to deal with any of this, and luckily.
Yeah. So let's touch on Cyborg fighting at 214.
Yeah, so they I think Dana White this week, and we'll wrap it up after this, guys. So Cyborg this week, they were saying that she's going to fight at UFC 214, but there's no opponent that's been even put out there yet, and it's tough. So we're left to wonder, who the hell is she going to fight? Well, we can cut out two people, it seems like, right away.
Yeah.
So the people that we thought she should fight. Number one, she should be fighting Megan Anderson.
Right.
Period. If you're going to have a 145 title fight with Jermaine Durandamy not wanting to fight for some reason, citing that steroids and cheating and blah, 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 even though it's been 6 years since she's been caught for cheating, and she's been in USADA's program since then. I mean, really, it's like this is the highest level, what we would call in the business, dick tuck of all time. I mean, like, I've never seen someone just straight up not want to fight who you should be fighting. That's crazy. I don't think I've ever seen this.
Yeah.
But with her doing that, you really want to see Megan Anderson fight Cyborg. I mean, the matchup is great. Megan being so long. When it comes to the kickboxing aspect, we've seen Cyborg struggle with a tall kickboxer. To me, I really wanted to see that fight, but she's already been booked for Invicta 24 against an undefeated fighter. It sucks that that's not going to be what happens, but you know, I'm glad to see that at least Megan's getting another fight. And then we got Kat Zingano, who's saying that she, I guess, isn't 100%, so she can't fight. So they're saying she's going to fight, but who is she going to fight?
Yeah, I mean, the Kat Zingano thing, and like we said, she said she wants to fight her, but she's not 100% health-wise right now, so she's not ready to fight. And she, in this week, for sure said 214 is out of the question for me. So where it goes from there, I don't know. I feel like Cyborg has been in the news a lot lately, so I would love to get some stuff locked down for her and figure out what's going on and understand that whole situation.
Yeah, if we hear anything this week, we'll try to let you guys know. But outside of that, I'd say we're done, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to hit our music. We'll get some freaking shout-outs going. We got a lot of shout-outs this week.
We do.
So, and we got some cool ones.
Yeah, so
Ryan Nader, you want to hit yours?
I do. So the first one is going to go to Tim Dog 24 from Periscope last night.
Tim Dog 24 was like heavy on the question asking. he was the shit.
Yeah. Charles Weand, Gracie Dix, Ashton.
Hold on. Stop real quick. Read the second name again.
Charles Weand?
Charles Weand. If you don't know who Charles Weand is, he is like a guy that does awesome YouTube videos. This guy's the shit, seriously.
Yeah.
He does beekeeping with his shirt off. He was doing like getting drugged by the back of a boat on like a crocodile into an alligator pit. This guy's a fucking psychopath.
He's a wild
seriously.
man.
He's a wild man. He's the shit.
Check him out. So Ashton Woodhull, D Money, Ray Hughes.
What up, D Money?
Eve Fink, FR, Amber Addison.
Best name ever. FR.
Eric Shockley, Jill Crivero, 21 Savage.
Yeah.
Trevor Sweeney, at BPark73 on Twitter, at FitMe34 on Twitter. Justin Wilkerson, Paulie, Eric Demi, Jorge Flores, Patrick Baez, Jesus Flores, Tony D, Million Veragic.
We got the whole Flores family.
Eric Green, Steve Lamb, and at the Kirk 18.
At the Kirk. At the Kirk, thank you, sir.
All right, pick her up, Leroy.
So I got Stu Diamond, Daniel Straus. That's one of the coolest ones ever. I love the fact that I even get to shout out Daniel Straus because when it comes to combat athletes in the area, he's one of the gold standards. King Keller, Ken Shamrock. How weird is that? I'm shouting out Ken Shamrock.
Fucking incredible.
Thanks for following us, and now we're going to follow you back.
Can we be in the Lions
That
Den?
is very weird. I would love to talk to him, which would be very interesting.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk pro wrestling and MMA,
Yeah.
and then also run some toe holds by him that I call the Ken Shamrock line. I would like to talk to him about that.
Amazing.
Charles Weand, I'm going to just double up on that shout out because that's one of the coolest shout outs of all time. We got Jamie Fleming, Spiro, I mean, that's probably the coolest name in the world. Mason Robinson, we got C. Turner, David Rogers, Bud, that's simply enough.
Get it?
Bud, Brandon Buzzcott, Henry Lee, Jay Johnson, Robbie Prime Dozer, Kawika, another cool ass name, Nick Nolander, I don't know why, but that sounds cool. Christina Ravensgirl, she's the person to follow on Twitter. She's she's out there and posts some funny stuff. Andrew Asaf, this guy's name looked like Bozo, but it's Bonzo. Bonzo is the best. J.I. Moran, we got Ron Gillette, Ricardo Lopez, thank you for watching last night. Colonel Angus, thank you for watching last night. Thank you for the support and all the hearts. Taylor James, Krista Nicole, Rob Van Bergen, Joseph McBride, Kevin Anhorn. Then we got Dirt Digger. That's weird. Wendy Shepard. We got Scott Kyle, Bobby Allman, Jake Johnson. We had to we had to shout out all you guys because these are the people that were retweeting us and following us last night and supporting us on the stream. It was so awesome. We love you guys so fucking much. It's crazy. And we'll talk to you next week.
Later.